सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Hari Om everybody. Today's topic is, I believe, life in a nutshell. So it's a pretty easy topic. I'm trying to explain the whole life in 30 minutes. So bear with me. When we say life in a nutshell, the first question that comes to mind is, whose life are we talking about? And the answer is my life, or the life which I am leading. And since I exist, everybody else around me is also existing. Then the next question that comes into mind is, who is this I? I'll give you a very simple formula for this to understand. I am a wave. When this wave understands that I am nothing but the ocean, this name and form of this wave is nothing but a manifestation of the great ocean. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am that Almighty. I am that infinite personality. When that attitude I understand, then whatever happens to this physical frame of mind, whatever happens to this agitations, stress, happiness, sorrow, dependent on the world for the mind, whatever ideas and ideologies I have of this intellect, all those things don't play a very important part. They are just names and forms of this almighty reality. So whatever happens to my body, mind and intellect does not happen to me, because I don't identify with this wave. I am identifying with this ocean. Number one, this is the highest point which we are taking. Second part, where the wave understands I am not the ocean, I cannot be the ocean, I can only be a part of the ocean. So ocean is also there, but I am also there. So until the ego I exist proportionately with the ocean, that much the hurt and the suffering will be to a lesser degree. When the wave, now the third point, when the wave understands I am an individual, I have a body, I have my mind which is full of desires, which is full of likes and dislikes, emotions, I have ideas and ideologies of how to make the world better or worse in whatever way. This is me, and I have nothing to do with the ocean. When the idea comes, I have nothing to do with the ocean, and you live in this individuality, this ego, then everything happens to you. That's where the prominent I comes. So when we are talking about life in a nutshell, we are talking about this third aspect of my life. And when you look around, when you have entered this aspect of individuality, you have believed that you are an individual, you have vasanas, you have desires, you have every actions, emotions and thoughts. You are looking out in the world and everybody is living. Everybody is living a life. Everybody seems to understand how to live. Everybody understands that they are right. If you remember in school, we had this poem of 6 blind men of Hindustan. They were keen to see an elephant, though all of them were blind. One blind man hung on to the trunk of the elephant and said, "Oh my God, anybody can see, it is a snake." Another blind man picked up the ear of the elephant and said, "Even the blindest of all can see, it is a fan." Another blind man touched his leg and said, "It is a tree." Another blind man touched the sturdy side of the elephant's side and said, "It is nothing but a wall." Another fellow touched the tail and said, "It is just like a rope." All of them vehemently fighting that elephant is like a fan, like a rope, like a snake, like a tree, like a sturdy wall. Though all of them were right in their particular viewpoint, all of them were still wrong. So through Granthas, through our spiritual studies, we have launched on this study of what is life. Life or living is bifurcated into two parts. One is existing. The other is real living. Existing, majority of people are existing in the sense of whatever current affairs are going on, we are so involved in the current affairs that they won't see the bigger picture of life. Completely involved in that. For example, when you know about the Titanic, when the Titanic comes and it is moving from one shore to the other country, it sinks. This is history, so everybody should know. Titanic sunk. And why did it sink? If I ask this question, most people would say it is because it hit the iceberg. Correct. The iceberg was there and the Titanic hit it. But if you analyze the whole experience a little bit further, you will understand that it is the speed of the Titanic that destroyed the ship. It was supposed to go at 40 knots or 20, as something lesser. And because of one person's ambition of seeing his name in the newspaper and the headline saying that Titanic will reach its destination 2 days before its target on its maiden voyage. That's the power of the ship. And because of this enigma, because of this allurement of my name should be in the paper, the captain said, start speeding it up. At that speed, the iceberg came right in front. And if you have seen the movie, the iceberg is standing like this. The Titanic did not hit it head on. It tried to turn and scraped. When the Titanic scraped, the bottom hull, that got destroyed and water started seeping in at the fourth class compartments. The people in the first class had no idea what was happening. They were still enjoying, they were still partying. The water started seeping in, and even in an eventual aspect of 4 hours, the whole ship got destroyed. So majority of us live our life looking at here and there, comparing standard of livings and moving at a speed which we perhaps are not built. And when we are moving at the speed, something hits. It can either be a financial downfall. It can either be a physical downfall, physical problems, or an emotional turndown, or an intellectual incapacitated. Somewhere we hit some milestone. As soon as we hit that impediment, we don't die immediately. The agitations, the stress point seeps into the personality very gradually, very slowly. The personality may not even know what is happening. Suddenly bursts of anger, suddenly depression, suddenly sadness, suddenly agitation, very, very less hypertension, blood pressure, blood sugar, whatever is the diseases. All these diseases come slowly, slowly. And when you look around, you feel it's okay because everybody is having it. So the solution to that is popping in more tablets continuously. So the solution is always external, it is never internal, until after 4 hours or 4 yogas, childhood, youth, old age, immediately the person dies away. This way, the life is destroyed in existing. The beauty is nobody even knows how this is happening. They are just following a routine because everybody, if not all, are living a selfish life. It is a selfish life which brings in all the stress and problem. Because when you are selfish, see, when you are agitated, when you are stressed, the thought that comes, I always see in the mobile phone before the talk, the spotlight is on you. The thought comes when I'm agitated is, why is this happening to me? Agitation will never come without this statement. The I need to be in focus for the agitation to come in. Majority of people don't know. Therefore, they are living a selfish life in the name of everybody is living anyway. More and more focus on acquisition and enjoying. I want to acquire more. I want, why? Why do you want to acquire more? You remember a long time back, I had given this example of a young boy walking on the street with a lot of hair on his head. And as soon as he looks out at a signal, he sees another boy with his girlfriend behind, and he just looks, admiring them. And this girl behind is looking at another Maruti car by the side, where husband, wife, and 2 children are fighting behind. And she's just looking. There's no dialogues there. And the man who is driving the Maruti car is watching across the signal. There is a Mercedes-Benz Supreme S-Class, and one man is sitting in a suit like this. And that man is looking at that guy. And that guy sitting in the Mercedes is looking at that youngster with a lot of hair on his head, because this fellow doesn't have any hair now. He's sitting in the Mercedes. It's a good way of saying, I want that, then I'll be happy. I want that. So acquisition, and I acquire and acquire and acquire in the hope that I enjoy. The enjoyment part never comes. Acquiring, half the life of perhaps 70% of the life is spent. Now the physical personality doesn't have the strength to even enjoy. This is existing. What happens? Because we are not assessed people around. Our assessment has got completely wrong. Foolish desires catering to my own self. There's this beautiful example of King Lear. When King Lear thought that he had to retire at the age of 80, he called his 3 princesses, beautiful girls. 2 of them were married. One of them was about to get married at that time. There was a huge carpet on the floor, and he had drawn the whole map of England there. And he called his eldest daughter, Regan, and said, Regan, the parliament is on. I'm going to give you a portion of England, depending on one factor. You have to admit today how much you love me. And Regan starts, oh my God, Dad, I love you so much. I love you like the stars. I love you like the moon, blah, blah, blah. She went on. And King Lear was so happy. He took a sword and cut a big chunk of the carpet. That's his property. And he gave it to the daughter and said, this is yours with the palace in it. Then he says, my other beautiful daughter, Goneril, come here and tell me how much you love Dad. And she started, I love you much more than Regan. She said some things, but she was not enough. I love you. And then she went on. King Lear was so happy that he picked a bigger piece and gave it to Goneril and said, this is yours. And then his most favorite daughter Cordelia. He called and said, Cordelia, come better. Tell me how much you love me. And this expectation of the daughters telling how much the daughter loves the father before the public. She said, I love you enough, just as a daughter is supposed to love the father. Please say something else. The king implies. Cordelia says, I have nothing more to say. The king says, Cordelia, nothing will give you nothing. She says, I love you with all my heart, but as soon as I get married, my responsibilities will be halved. Therefore, I love you, but I don't have anything more to say. He gets so angry that he throws the girl out. He literally throws it to that person from King of France. And he says, take her, I don't want to see her face. And after that, the whole play of William Shakespeare, this fellow, King Lear, is just struggling to stay alive. Both the daughters are kicking him away constantly. He goes to Goneril. Goneril says, sorry, I can't keep you. He goes to Regan. Regan says, I can't keep you. If she's keeping you for 10 days, please be there because I can't keep you more than 2 days. Ultimately, the last scene is he becomes mad, and eventually Cordelia comes, the King of France comes and saves the King Lear. Ultimately, it's a pile of dead bodies. Cordelia dies, Regan dies, Goneril dies, King Lear also dies, but King Lear and Cordelia die together. Wrong assessment of people around. This all happens in the preview when you are existing, as I said, when you have an extroverted attitude in life. When you have an extroverted attitude, I want to enjoy this. Even when you are enjoying, you will not enjoy. Because there are laws functioning based on those enjoyments which we are doing or enjoying the sense context or sense objects of the world. One law is called the law of diminishing value of returns. When I give you a mango, you eat that mango and you say, it is very tasty, sir. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying it. And I watch you enjoy it. How much is the enjoyment? 100%. Really beautiful. Good taste. Very nice. As soon as you have eaten the mango, I give you another mango and say, take it. You may or may not have it. If you choose to have it, you will not enjoy at the same level how you enjoyed the first mango. The more mangoes I give you instantly, the more the enjoyment will go on reducing until a time comes after perhaps 3 mangoes or 2 mangoes, you say, I don't want more. This is any sense context you are trying to enjoy, the law of diminishing value of returns comes. It will go on reducing. The pleasure content will go on reducing until a time comes where you have the object, you are no more happy or happier than what you are. When you don't have the object, you suffer. Everybody is doing pranayama. So try to do pranayama someday morning. Put your hand, 2 fingers like this. Breathe in, stop. Breathe out, stop. And stop breathing. As soon as you stop breathing for 2 seconds, there will be a craving inside. Breathing in doesn't give any added pleasure. But when you are not supplied with the breath, you suffer. A point comes in relationships also where the company of the other person doesn't give you any added pleasure. But when the person is not there, there comes displeasure. This is called the point of no return. Now there is confirmed only stress and agitation in relationship. When you are not there, old husband and wife couple are there. The man is around 85, the lady is around 79, and the lady says that Excuse me, I've kept everything cooked. I want to go and visit my mother. So the husband says, go, doesn't matter. I'll stay here. I can stay alone. And the man stays. He has nothing, no idea of kitchen, no idea what to do anything. He just can eat something. As soon as half a day passes, he immediately calls the lady, the wife, and says, what's happening? Why are you not coming? Why are you so delayed? You stay there with your mom. Don't need to come. All that anger. Why? Because he's missing. But when the lady is there in the house, neutralization. No added pleasure. Both these things hurt when you are contacting the sense objects of the world. But the second aspect, when you stop relying on the external objects for your internal peace of state, then you move on to how should I live? What should be my life? Then you enter into a zone of living. How do you live? My life is nothing but one experiences telescoping into other experiences. All my life, right from childhood, one experience with other experiences, it went on joining till now. And now also every day the experiences keep on changing. Every day is made up of n number of experiences. So if I have to improve my life, bring up the standard quality of my life, I have to focus on all the experiences. All the experiences become good, my life becomes good. And to make all the experiences better, I have to understand how should one define an experience. The whole life is just a flow of thoughts, flow of experiences. It's called Anubhava Dhara. It's a flow. Even if I wanted to stop it, I can't stop it until I die. Only then the experiences stop. Till then, experiences keep on flowing. Goodness, bad, happiness, sorrow, it's a flow. Then I have to find out what makes an experience. Each experience is made up of two aspects. One is the subject, me, and the other is the object, the world. Both these things are important for the experience to enhance. Neither one, if it is down, the experience will not be good. For example, I am talking to you. When I am talking to you about this esteemed subject, as I am talking to you, I am thinking something else. I have not taken rest. I have not had ample food, and I am feeling very, very sleepy. So when I'm communicating to you, I will talk like life is a series of experiences. Anubhava Dhara. Don't fall asleep. I'm just giving an example. When I talk like this, you are all prepared and you are listening. In 5 minutes, you'll say, oh my God, what has happened to the lectures? The experience will become dull and boring. Similarly, I come geared up and say, wow, life in a nutshell. What a beautiful topic. And let me start. So I have done everything. I have had my sleep. I have taken bath. I have had good food. I'm in a good frame of mind. And I sit and chanted Om Sahana Bhavatu and started. I am in full zeal trying to put my all into this subject. And suddenly I hear voices from behind. Khana rakh lo, sabji bana lo, chai pee lo, from behind the video, others is on. When I see that kind of an attitude, the experience goes away. It's demolished. For the experience to be better, I need to be in my optimum level, and the students, whoever are sitting for the communication and understanding of the knowledge with pen, with paper, full concentration, taking bath, Nothing. Should not be any other disturbances other than the communication going on. When the experience of the subject and the object meet like this, both at their optimum capacity, life becomes beautiful. In fact, experience becomes beautiful. And once I've tasted that kind of experience, that kind of happiness where I am there, you are there, and yet the ego between both of us is not there. Only pure knowledge remains. Only the pure experience remains. You know, when you know about how the experience is pure, you will, after the class, look up and say, oh my God, I did not know how the time passed. This statement explains your full concentration towards that particular experience. You put every effort to enhance every experience of your life like that. Somebody asked a teacher, what goes on in your mind? How does your mind function? So he said, when I'm shaving, I'm just shaving. When I'm taking bath, I'm just taking bath. When I'm eating, I'm just eating. You know, it's such a rarity. How many of us eat and only stay with the experience of eating? How many of us experience taking a bath and just taking a bath? Nothing else. The mind doesn't wander anywhere else. Experience is 100%. When all your experiences move in this level, 100%, each and every experience of your life telescoped into that divinity, it is called an inspired life. If the life is not inspired, if the ego is there and it is registering, oh my God, I have to do this again, then it becomes a monotonous life. Right living is experiencing that brilliance of subject and object. I interacting with the world. The world is improving beautifully. It is moving on at a great speed. Previously, there used to be the Dabba phone where you used to keep. Now look at the way we are communicating. World has improved beautifully, but in and through all this world, improving, all the gimmicks and gadgets coming up, sad to say, the stress and agitation has increased proportionately. Just now I was reading one of the news articles where one of the doctors in Pune, Sassoon Hospital, he says that every month, usually there are 20 people who commit suicide. But during these times, coronavirus times, the number has increased to 108 in 3 months. This is the condition of the mind we are fighting against. I am not saying it's a good thing. The idea is we are fighting. Spread the word. Please, if you are listening to these classes, do one thing. Keep your ears open. Stop living in gadgets and start communicating to people around and finding out whether they are all right. Finding out whether they are all right. And if they have any problem, you guide them. Not necessarily to this class. It can be any class which helps them in this state of despair. World is improving, but the human being is suffering. More and more stress, more agitation, recession is happening, economy is down, this, so many negatives. The great rishis of the olden times, they understood this relationship between the subject and the object. They decided that the object is taken care of by these scientists. They are improving the world in whichever way, whatever way they can. But the subject is ignored to a point of fault. Therefore, they started this study of Vedanta to introduce you to the most important subject in your life. yourself. We'll continue next time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.